Hi everyone, and welcome to your daily horoscope and tarot reading. Today we have a really active and powerful sky where the energies are rather dual because the predominant celestial conversations are those of sextiles, so these are conversations of harmony held by Mercury with different power players, but at the same time we have a couple of really hard squares which are going to create moments of stress, moments of frustration, moments of so called rude awakening, because we are still heavily influenced by the conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, which on one hand refers to all the turmoil and crisis going on the world stage, but on the other hand, this is where it's affecting us personally, psychologically. Now, how it affects us might not always have that much to do with everything that's going on the world stage, because not everyone reacts to the crisis the same way. But since it's created the most ideal conditions for isolation, to be with yourself, now these conditions are going to trigger really powerful psychological purges, and most importantly, it's like a wake up call, an invitation from the heavens to confront certain truths in your life. Now, this celestial invitation to do all of this is the manifested power of the square between Jupiter, Pluto, and the Sun traversing the sign of Eris, which has much to do with our primordial selves, who we are on a core instinctual level. In other words, who nature herself, who our genes programmed us to be. And this is where we're invited to take power and responsibility over this, even though this is something highly subjective. How much power can we have over who we are? Especially when who we are is not just about our education, our programming, our social influences, but rather who we are at a core level, who we were born to be. So that is why all of a sudden our lives can be filled with stress, with challenges, with certain truth or reflection of our inner truth or the inner truth of other people, giving us the chance to react, giving us the chance to observe our own emotional responses to whatever is being revealed to us. Now, on one hand, the sun is meeting the planetoid Eris, the goddess of discord, in the sign of Aries, which is the energy of frustration, rebellion, desiring not just to confront the truth, but to embody it, to take action. So for some people, this can be a really assertive energy. This can cause frustrations, irritations. It can cause them to lash out. It can cause them to lose control. When the inner volcano builds up, there has to be a moment when it explodes. Now, for other people, this isn't that much about themselves because it is much more about those who they have in their lives. Because if they are irritated, if they are more sensitive than at any other time, well, this can cause moments of friction, moments of tension, conflicts, confrontations, and all that. So it depends on your personal chart how this conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn squaring the Sun conjunct Eris is going to play out in your life. But regardless what shape or form it takes, regardless of how it manifests, because for some people it can just be a big epiphany, which has nothing to do with other people. For others, the sign of Capricorn has much to do with their careers, with their professional lives, their conditions at work. So it might be their superiors, their bosses, the leaders of the organization who are going to challenge them directly or indirectly. But however this plays out, it has much to do with how much power you have over yourself and how much power you allow others to have over you. And this can also represent a profound soul level, personality level, psychological transformation where you use the power of the truth, whatever you discover right now, to change all of this, to change all your relations, to claim back your power and to use it to purify yourself. because Pluto can represent obsessions, especially when conversing this way with the sun, which is our ego. So it might just reveal to us our obsessions, our unhealthy desires, when we approach something in a very aggressive way, when there's our way or the highway. And of course, each and every time we support such a behavior or tolerate it, even when it comes from us, it's going to lead to blockages, it's going to lead to a certain type of depression, because one perspective of what depression truly is has much to do with repressed rage, repressed anger, because a part of our psyche, especially the rational part, doesn't allow that anger to come to the surface and to be manifested, because it can create conflict, it can put your life in danger, because if you lose your job because you express your anger, for example, now that can have serious consequences. But at the same time, there has to come a moment when the psyche is ready to confront the anger and the rage, and it is those moments when the energies which we have repressed come to the surface, and basically they scream at us, find a resolution, find some harmony, find a balance, find a greater equilibrium in your life, adapt, rearrange, transform your own rules and regulations, your inner ones, which govern your life, which govern your principles, which govern how you behave and how you react to certain things. So when we analyze the configuration of this square from an astrological perspective, it is pretty obvious that Pluto is the dominant power here, so change is inevitable. The best way to accomplish this change is just surrender, just accept the fact that there are some things in life which we do not have any power over, and it's perfectly okay. We don't have to always be in control, we don't always have to have an influence, have a mental schematics of how things have to evolve and in which way they have to evolve. Sometimes just the best way to go about things is to go with the flow, surrender everything that we do not have power over. And this is where Jupiter comes in, because it's the planet of inner truth, and even though it is not that strong in the sign of Capricorn, it is still enough to give us the wisdom, to give us the higher octaves of knowledge, so to speak, to know the difference when we have to surrender, and when it is we have to use our powers to change, to alter reality. So regardless of how this square plays out in your personal life, it is something deeply psychological, and it is meant to reflect some very important truths about yourself, and those truths may not always be that obvious, because we're talking about instinct here. We're not talking about the Pisces type of not knowing yourself, where, traumas and everything that happened to you is stored in the subconscious and then can run as programmings. This part of the sky, Aries, is about what is buried deep in your instinct, and you have to have power over that. So as soon as you become aware, you already have power over this, because it might not always have to do with healing, it might not have to source from a trauma, it might just source from a personal illusion, it might just source from a really strong or equally a really weak ego, because sometimes we just squander our powers. Sometimes our mistake is that we do not stand up for ourselves, we do not express ourselves, we allow others to need us and their needs to control us in a very unhealthy way, where we just feel that we have to sacrifice everything to please others, because that would represent harmony or balance in our lives, which is also a big illusion, and which also falls under the rulership of Pluto, where all of this has to come to the surface. We have to see ourselves in this mirror so we can change, transform, rearrange, and ultimately find the appropriate balance for us personally. And this is where Saturn and Aquarius is a really positive force, because it invites us to live our lives according to our own inner rules and regulations, our individual principles, our individual intelligence, our individual knowledge. And only after we discover our own set of rules that we have to take those rules and adapt them in such a way that they are in harmony with the collective, with society, with the physical representation of the world. And yes, of course, there are times when these two inner rules and the outer rules clash and are not in harmony with each other, but that's already a totally different subject. There are many ways to reach that state of harmony, and of course, one is rebelling and having moments of confrontation. Another way is adapting and surrendering, and a totally different way is just detaching and not allowing the physical rules, the collective rules, to have that much influence over your psyche. So basically, not always having your way and your will is perfectly fine because it is a natural part of life and everyone experiences this at one point. But of course, the square between Pluto and the Sun is going to be a longer lasting aspect, so this is just the beginning. This is just the very first stages of revelation, and then tapping into our powers of change to readapt. But today might be a very significant moment because Eris, the goddess of discord, is in the picture, and especially since she squares the conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto, that can manifest on the world stage as masses of people challenging the abuse of power that centralized power is projecting on all of us. So this today might be an energy of rebellion, heavy dissatisfaction, and we might be seeing this play out on the world stage one way or another. Now another aspect which is really important, and this one is a beautiful harmonious energy, is Mercury freshly entered in Eris, which represents the quickness of the mind, which represents the harmony of the mind and the instinct, or better said, the certain instinctual intelligence, which is a very important part of nature. Not only we humans, but every animal, every living organism possesses this specific, unique form of intelligence, unique to its own species. So on one hand, Mercury is sextiled by Saturn. Even though the power of this sextile is fading, it is still an influential energy, inviting us to ground our minds, our communication, our inner mental activities, and have control over what we express. Of course, this is also an energy of realism, of grounding, and responsibility and diligence. So this gives us a chance to know what we express, to know what we speak, to know what we project onto others, and this makes us be in control. Now the sextile Mercury receives from Mars is a totally different energy. It is really dynamic, it is really passionate. It urges us to express ourselves. It urges us to use the power of our intellect, our intelligence, our knowledge, our research, whatever, to make a difference, especially because Mars is in the sign of Aquarius, which rules society, interhuman connections, humanitarianism. So it invites us to do what we can to influence the collective in a very positive way with our intelligence, and to have the courage, to have the guts, so to speak, to express ourselves, to share our uniqueness, our individuality, to inspire, to have trust in ourselves. And basically, a simpler way of expressing all of this, what this energy means is be the change you would like to see in the world. Now another sextile that Mercury receives from Venus from the sign of Gemini is even more relevant because Mercury rules the sign of Gemini, so there's a very powerful synergy between these two planets. And also Venus herself is almost at touching distance with Vesta, keeper of the sacred flame, which represents the sanctity and the holiness inside our minds and thoughts, because many times we look at our minds as something very chaotic, something very impure, where all those mental pollutions can just cause illusions, cause us to lose our clarity, self defeating thoughts, and all of that. But there are other times when the sacredness, the sanctity, the holiness is actually in the mind, and today is such an energy. So the sextile between Mercury and Venus empowers the beauty of our speech, of our communications, the love inside our minds, that powerful creative energy which can be used artistically to inspire and to guide people, but which can also be used in a very practical way, where if we loved our, let's say, our scientific work, our scientific study, if this was something we were passionate about all our lives, well, right now is a perfect moment and opportunity to embody everything that we love and to use the practicality of our studies to come up with really palpable, really significant solutions to this problem. So this is a really positive energy for scientists, researchers, journalists. In other words, almost everyone who is out there trying to find solutions and to fix this problem and to help other people. And as I said earlier, this can be done in numerous different ways. It's not limited. So everything that has an intellectual and practical element to it is greatly empowered. And of course, the emphasis, Venus, is put on arts, the beauty within everything. This is also a really positive aspect for love, for matters of the heart, because Venus in Gemini, on its own, it's not a really strong energy, it's not really good for commitments, but it is very light-hearted, it is very free, it is very adaptable. So that means it's perfect for trying out new and unconventional things, so to speak. Maybe online dating, maybe doing certain things which have to do with communication online that you never felt comfortable before to do. And online dating and connecting to other people online is one way this energy can play out. And since there's also a minor astrological aspect, the moon in Capricorn quincunxing Venus in Gemini, this can also represent unusual, surprising, maybe awkward, maybe shocking, romantic declarations, romantic offers, offers of friendship, offers of collaboration, and in some cases even offers of help, maybe when a highly influential person, the government, an institution of the government, local council, or whatever offers you an unexpected help, and of course it is up to you if you accept it or decline it, but it comes as a surprise, which can be awkward, while for others quite delightful. Another very important energy is definitely the trine, a conversation of supreme harmony between Venus and Mars, and both of these planets speak from air signs, so this energy is also really good for matters of the heart, matters of love, matters of passion, especially that have to do with the intellect, what you truly love, what you're truly attracted to, what are your goals and desires, and if those are aligned with something that you love deeply, well, then this aspect can help you achieve success, help you find all the right people who have to be part of this, and of course, if all of this has to do with matters of love and romance, this can also be a powerful blessing, just that it is ruled by the air element, so it is going to take birth, first of all, in your mind, in your mental sphere. So, in conclusion, the power of the squares is a really oppressive, stressful, frustrating, and rather assertive energy, because for some people it turns them against others, like people in their lives, or centralized power maybe, but for other people it turns them against themselves, because they can see their self-defeating patterns, they can see their lack of self-discipline, which is affecting their lives negatively. So this is an energy of confrontation, of auto-psychoanalysis, so to speak. So it's not even meant to be that easy, but the potential, where it's leading us, it is definitely worth it. Nothing good in life comes without pain, without suffering, and this is one of the moments when all of us are invited to embody this principle. And it shouldn't even worry us that much, because at the same time there are harmonious aspects, harmonious energies, which are definitely going to help us, are going to empower us, encourage us, inspire us. So, because there's so much in the sign of Aquarius, especially that very powerful Mars, we can have the sensation that we are not alone in all of this, even though physically we may be more alone than ever, but psychologically, as in a collective, as in interhuman connections, we are stronger than ever. And the very powerful group meditations, mass prayers, and everything that different people connecting to each other online are doing to help the situation is a prime example that we are actually trying to be there for each other, and this is a big blessing, a blessing that might not have been possible without this crisis. Now for the tarot reading, the reading is opened by the Knight of Wands, which is a really passionate energy, and regarding today's reading, it definitely symbolizes the most positive effects of this psychological purge. Some people all of a sudden have managed to dig really deep inside their hearts, inside their psyche, and it became obvious to them that very many things they have done, worked for, sacrificed for in the distant and even recent past, how their lives used to be before this crisis emerged on the world stage. Now they have done everything because they just wanted to find a partner. They wanted to attract a really positive person into their lives. So this was the basic instinct. This was the core purpose of all their ambitions, just that throughout the years it got polluted, it got masked, it got hidden and repressed. So let me exemplify this. For example, someone might have decided to go to uni and study and have higher education, not because they were so attracted to the profession itself, but because they knew logically and rationally in their minds that being in a position of power, being a relevant member of society, is going to help them attract a suitable partner in their lives. And this was how their career started, or better said, this was why their career started. But after it started, they kept on working, building, accumulating, becoming masters, becoming highly skilled professionals. But on the journey to get there, they forgot their main purpose, which was to attract a really good person in their lives who can appreciate whatever they are doing. And now, because their lives all of a sudden came to a halt, they rediscovered that primordial passion, that primordial goal which started them off in life, and this gives them the opportunity to readapt, to embrace that old dream, to embrace that old desire, so to speak, to attract another person. So everything that went on in their lives, successes, failures, and everything, gets a totally new perspective where they understand themselves much more clearly, because they understand their core desires, what part of their psyches determined them to go on their life journeys. And all of a sudden, they realize that the long hours of study and work and this and that, modern busy life, just distorted their sense. It disconnected them from the core desire. So their destinies, their lives, how everything had to play out in their lives, reflected that distortion, where maybe everything was about work, about profession, about career. Maybe they didn't even attract the most positive people in their lives because they got so in tune with the professional side of things that they forgot their core desires, that they were searching for a suitable lover. So all of a sudden, everything in life makes that much sense, and this gives them the power. This is basically the Knight of Wands, to realign, to begin anew, to find a totally different approach to get where they wanted to get in life, as in to find a suitable partner or lover, someone who can understand them. So, this moment of epiphany can change absolutely everything. And the card which follows is the Two of Cups, the card of love, of romance, of romantic declaration, so to speak. So, for many people, these soul level epiphanies and realizations, a very positive expression of the psychological purge of reconfiguration, returning to innocence basically, is giving them back their powers of attraction, because now that everything is clear in their minds, they know exactly what they desire, and because of their professional or whatever background, their experience with people, they also have the skills to attract the partner and to filter everything that is not so perfect, not so aligned with them, which enters their lives, to filter it out. And this is also a huge power because you don't play out the old pattern of starting a relationship and then drawing the conclusion that you were not compatible to begin with. This is where you embody your wisdom and know the difference between a person who is potentially compatible and who is never going to work out. And since the Ten of Coins follows this card, that is the element of earth, so it represents prosperity. And prosperity all of a sudden gained a totally different dimension, a new perspective, where for some people, prosperity no longer has to do with money or material wealth, but with knowledge, life experience, the capability, the capacity to love, to invest love energy into anything really. So maybe for the first time in their lives, in their entire existence, they discover that they were actually the most prosperous people on the planet, not because of how much money they had, but because inside of them they had so much beauty, they had so much goodwill, good intent, and so much love to offer. Without having a moment of solitude, a moment of deep honesty with yourself, this might be absolutely invisible to you. So for many people, this is like a huge wake up call that, hold on a minute, all my life I have thought of myself as someone low value, as someone weak, someone influential, someone naive, someone not that relevant, when in truth I was such a loving person, such a true value in the lives of others, that I cannot understand how I never saw this about myself. So for many people, this is like a second moment of being born, when it's not all the bad things they become aware of, but all the good things that were hidden from them for various different reasons, motives. Some might have to do with social things, some might have to do with their own limitations. It doesn't matter. They are discovering that they're so valuable, that they're so precious, beautiful, true human beings who deserve everything good in life. And this is a big game changer because, as I said in all my previous horoscopes and all my work that I have ever done in my life, what you hold as inner truth is what is going to be reflected by your physical reality, and by discovering their true value, their true worth, which is love, which is creativity, which is good intent, which is a non-aggressive approach. This moment changes everything, because this is also a valuable part of the inner truth, And this is also a valuable part of true healthy faith, because if you rigidly have to believe that you're good, that you're perfect, that you whatever, well, that's already unhealthy. That is already a construct of the ego. So a healthy faith is when you have all these challenges, when you have all these doubts, but also have the intelligence, the willpower, and the wisdom to demonstrate all the reasons why you should practically believe in yourself. And that can only be done by going through trials and tribulations and seeing the conclusion, the end result for yourself. And when you believe in yourself because you have already proven everything you had to prove, that is a great power. That is a superior, supreme power, because when you have to force on yourself the self-belief, and this is what people with toxic positivism do. Happy, happy, joy, joy, I have to only think positive and stuff like that. Ignore fears, ignore challenges, ignore doubts. Well, that's unhealthy. That is only going to lead to rage and depression. But when you go through trials, when you go through tribulations and arise victorious, arise pure, now that is already a miracle. From a psychological perspective, a moment of such epiphany is definitely a miracle, because we have no possible way to measure how empowering it is. So basically, this is how we create our own realities, or better said, co-create it, because we find out, we reflect, we accept who we truly are and what our inner motives, our inner drives, our inner motors, alchemical reactors, so to speak, are. And when all of this leads to love, when all of this leads to the desire to be relevant in a very positive way in the lives of others, when all of these lead to our own creative energies, well, then that's already a miracle in itself. And that is exactly why the reading is closed by the Prince of Swords and the Strength card, because this is the combination of a healthy surrender. This is the combination when you see the truth inside of your soul, and it is the truth that motivates you to surrender things which are no longer important to you. So this represents that surrendering, psychological purge, finding your own inner truth doesn't always have to be painful. Sometimes it's the easiest and most pleasant thing you could possibly go through, because when you find your true passion, when you find your true goal, when you find your true inner calling, which can be absolutely anything, may it be to do this and that in life, may it be to fulfill a certain role, may it be to find love in the form of a lover, a partner, or whatever, may it be to become the best parent you possibly can be to your children and to yourself, so to speak, because as I said in the horoscope, the sign of Eris has much to do with your primordial self, which is basically the inner child, and you are the parent of that inner child because you are embodying your spirit. So it is your responsibility to take care of whoever it is that you are, to take care of your needs, to defend yourself, to stand up for yourself, but at the same time to give to society, to others, whatever you would wish to. So for many people, this is the energy of healing. This is the energy of profound psychological regeneration, because confronting the traumas, purging, the usual stuff is just one side of the spectrum, but true healing comes afterwards, when you embody those truths, when you take pride in who you are, and when you focus on your true passions, on your true soul level goals, because that aligns you with yourself, with your karma, with your destiny, and ultimately with the universe. And when you're aligned with the universe, you're in flow. The universe doesn't control your life anymore, but it just supports you 24/7. every second of each day. It just supports you because it doesn't need to babysit you anymore. It doesn't need to overprotect you, because finding your truth, embodying your truth, loving your truth, by this you're fulfilling even the role of the universe as a parent. You're being there for yourself, so it can just be infinitely generous, kind, supportive, good-willed to you. It can conspire in your favor every second of each day because it no longer sees you as something outside of itself. It sees you as an active component of its integrity. So basically, by supporting you, it supports itself, and this is how nature is built. So just by embodying your inner truth, just by refining your passions, is already enough to receive the full support, generosity, and the true expression of the kindness of the universe. So for many people, even though this moment in time is rather painful, hard, not so easy to bear, it's going to lead them to the biggest miracles of their entire existence. And maybe we can go as far as saying the biggest miracle they have ever seen in all of their incarnations. So all those people who discovered themselves in this reading are definitely have every single reason to be hopeful, to be faithful, to keep on being strong, because you have already made it. You have already created a beautiful life for yourself. Just wait for the moment. Just wait for divine timing to take place, and you're going to be amazed. You are going to be so grateful for everything that you have done, and most importantly, you are going to find yourself infinitely grateful for all the hard moments in your life, for all your obstacles, for all your moments of suffering, because they made you humble. If you were the hot iron, those events were the blacksmith's hammer, which created something infinitely beautiful and valuable, which is who you are today, who you are right now. Well, thank you so much for listening. Stay safe and blessed, everyone. Bye for now.